Hi all, graphics card benchmark this time. I've got a Sapphire HD 7770 overclock installed. It's got 1 gig of GDDR5 memory, 128-bit bus. Now I've got it in a decent system which is powered by an i5 8500, 16 gig of RAM and an SSD. So that definitely won't be the limiting factor, but that graphics card will be. Just really it's an experiment to see if a relatively decent card but just with 1 gig of VRAM can actually perform. So what I'll do is I'll run Heaven and Valley first, benchmarks, and then a few games. So I've run Heaven and Valley benchmarks. I've kept the resolution at 1920 by 1080 and the quality set to low and then the other settings set to off. So on Valley a final score of 2088. Minimum maximum, there's a bit of a gap there, but to be honest it's to be expected in a test like this. Ideally you want them as close as possible. And Heaven score of 1611. So what I'll do now is run some games. Recording on Bandicam, so you need to take into account that a bit of resources taking up usually 5, 7, 10% thereabouts. So let's get on with some games. So up first we have Team Fortress 2. Now in the top right I've got the AMD metrics display showing the frames per second, and it's easy with not too much going on. Easy over 200 frames per second. Of course this monitor won't show more than 60, but that's what the Steam counter registers if you did have a monitor that could display that. So I've got the quality settings on high and maximum resolution. So as expected, this system certainly won't have any problems playing the likes of Team Fortress. So if you're into this sort of game, then go for it. So that's Team Fortress 2. Maxed everything out, clears in resolution and quality, and just get a few characters moving on the screen eventually. Some of the game I need to practice at. VSync's not needed because I can't see any tearing. Over 100 frames per second. So similar to Team Fortress 2. Effective game this, but you won't need a high-end system to play it, including this one, and having a decent gaming experience if you can get good enough. Okay, so that's Zula. So up next we have Csgo 2. I've set the resolution to 1366 by 76. Up next we have Csgo 2, set the resolution to 1366 by 768. Custom settings are shadow quality high, everything else set to low, particle detail set to medium, high dynamic range and fidelity, FX super resolution, performance. So let's start a game. I'll pause the video and resume once I'm in a game. So I'm in a game. And I've got a few other players moving on the screen. Did notice a bit of a stutter then, and it's hovering, touching 70 frames per second at the moment. It does dip occasionally though. It's now gone down to 41, so it's up to you if you want to try it. Maybe have another look at those settings, because in a game like this you want as many frames as possible. And I also need a bit more practice. So feel free to try out Csgo 2. So now we have Fortnite. I've kept the frame rate to 30 and all the quality settings set to low. And the resolution is 1280 by 720. And I've selected the performance rendering mode. We're outside, no firefight going on. It's a rock solid 30, but I'm sure with a few other characters on the screen which I can't see in at the moment, that that rate will go down a touch. But don't forget, Bandicam does take up a bit of resource, and that could make all the difference between 30 frames per second and Bandicam not recording, and it going down a touch when Bandicam is recording. So feel free to try out Fortnite. So on to Need for Speed Payback. Now I've set the highest resolution, 1920 by 1080, the low graphical preset. There's not that many settings in the menu, but motion blur I switched off. At the moment we're getting mid 40s, which is fine for a racing game, but I should imagine in built up areas with... So apologies for that, but during the cutscene I couldn't actually disable the sound. Yeah, in more built up areas and with more cars I would imagine that frame rate's going to go down, but at the moment it's very playable. I'd say on average mid 40s. I think I need a bit more practice with this game. So feel free to try this. I think there's one or two games after. I think there's one or two games after this in the Need for Speed series, so feel free to try those, but I think probably we've reached the limit of this card's capabilities, because that VRAM limit is getting pretty close to being exceeded. Okay, so that's Need for Speed Payback, and apologies for the cutscene sound, but I couldn't disable it unfortunately. Now I've had this problem before with Bandicam, just refuses to record in game or screen capture mode. So on the opening level it was 30 and above, 30 frames or above, but it was the lowest resolution and the lowest quality settings, and a lot of the on-off flags, in fact the majority was set to off. Did notice some graphical glitches, didn't detract too much from the gameplay, but they're there. Especially with the centre crosshair. Be aware that once things move to outside and get a bit busier, I'm sure that frame rate's going to go down. The game may even crash if the VRAM limits is exceeded. I'm not sure what safeguards are built in for that, but try it out anyway. What I do suggest is try Doom from 2016. It's a superior game in my opinion, both single player and multiplayer. Okay, that's Doom. So, on to FIFA 2018. I've got the quality set to Ultra and frame rate capped at 60, but the system metrics will record what it can detect. And at the moment it's hovering below, just below 60, which is quite decent. Occasionally nudges down to late 40s, but it's up to you. There's plenty of settings. At the moment the resolution's on maximum as well, so feel free to experiment, but at the moment on Ultra and highest resolution it's a great gaming experience, and decent looking as well. Okay, so that's FIFA 18. So on to Grand Theft Auto 5, and that's the opening driving level, so it's not going to be too taxing on the system. It's when you get built up areas with lots of people and more vehicles that the rate goes down. So I've got it on the maximum resolution, and I took the default quality settings a lot switched off. It still looks good on this size monitor, and it's above 60 frames per second, which is you're not going to see more than that on this monitor, as I keep saying, but I think unless you start seeing pop-ups and the rate going down too much, I think you'll be okay with these settings. Okay, so that's Grand Theft Auto 5. Right, so I've run benchmarks and a few games on this card. Now where possible I've tried to adjust the settings so that VRAM limit's not exceeded. There's only a gig to play with. Forza Horizon 4 wouldn't start, which is not surprising, so the racing game I use is Need for Speed Payback. I recorded on Bandicam, so that will take up a little bit of resource. In the top right I can see the AMD built-in metrics but I don't think, unless I record on screen record mode, you'll be able to see that. But I do talk through the performances anyway. If you've got any questions on that card, just drop me a comment. Thanks for watching.